So now we slide into the running back position, and the running back position is great. It's really good. Like, this slate has solid quarterbacks. This slate is the best since I've been covering it for 4 years. The best Thanksgiving slate I've seen, with just so many great priced and just good players in general. So let's discuss this running back position. We'll scroll down to get to the cheaper guys when we have to get to them. There are some other interests that aren't on the screen right now if you're listening on the pod or the YouTube version. Zeke Elliott, he got the full practice in on Tuesday. The thing with Zeke is he's $8,000. Like, can you afford it? He's been good this year. He's been solid. He's getting 19.4 opportunities per game, which leads this slate. And I don't think that shocks anybody. He's a 7-point favorite with a 29 team implied total. So if you're just talking about all the underlying metrics, well, his team's projected to score 4+ touchdowns. He's a touchdown favorite, which means he's likely, and his team is likely to run more in the second half and in the fourth quarter, a lot more in these types of games, which means more secure touches for Zeke Elliott. You add in that he has currently, including the Sunday slate and Monday Night Football, the 5th best matchup on week 12, a positive right now 58% advantage against the Las Vegas Raiders that currently allow 1.43 yards before contact, basically a yard and a half before they even touch the running back, and Zeke's been good in terms of breaking tackles this year. That is fantastic behind a solid offensive line. So Zeke is going to look good. Zeke currently projects out for me for 18 fantasy points. Believe it or not, that is my 3rd highest projected running back. So even though Zeke is the most expensive running back, he's definitely in play on this slate. I currently have him coming in as the second to tied for the 2nd or 3rd highest owned. He's not even my highest projected running back. Like, Josh Allen is the highest price, but he's also my highest projected. Makes sense. There's so many good running back plays on this slate that he is my 3rd highest projected running back. So Zeke is in play. The reason he's not a yes, though, is, well, he's expensive and he's not projecting out as the best play in the slate at the running back position. So we keep him in play, definitely in play in tournaments. But for right now, we slide down to some guys who are projecting out better than him. Kamara is not one of those guys. Kamara has not practiced on Monday. He did not practice on Tuesday. Monday's the estimated practice. They don't actually practice. So I'm expecting Kamara not to play. He has not practiced in 2.5 weeks now. For him to just come out of nowhere and get a full practice on Wednesday and then play on Thursday would actually be surprising. Not shocking, but surprising to me. So we're leaving him on here just as a maybe, but I'm not expecting him to play. We go down one more to DeAndre Swift, who is projecting out. He's basically projecting out for like the same points as Zeke. It's tongue-in-cheek. It's like a 0.5 point difference, but he's projecting out for more right now, DeAndre Swift, for me. It was nice to see last week DeAndre Swift still see 70+% of the snaps and opportunities, even with Jamal Williams coming back. Williams just sees 7 carries. Swift goes for 130 yards in back-to-back weeks, the 50-yard touchdown. The fact that Jared Goff coming back, I mentioned it's going to help like Khalif Raymond. It probably actually helps DeAndre Swift the most because Jared Goff actually can move the ball. Like, Goff is not looking good, but him throwing for 150 to 180 yards just looked fantastic compared to Tim Boyle struggling to get to 70 last week. In week 11, you ended up seeing those 17 opportunities for DeAndre Swift, 136 yards and a touchdown. He saw 4 targets from Boyle, and now you're going to see even more from Jared Goff because that's exactly what they're doing so far this year. In Detroit, very quietly has a positive 45% run blocking advantage. That is number 7 on the entire week right now. It is number 2 on the slate, only behind Ezekiel Elliott, so it's looking like a very good matchup for Swift, who clearly has that lovely advantage when it comes to just what he can do in the receiving game. I don't care as much about his terrible team total at 19.5 and the fact that he's an underdog, because if he's an underdog, if anything, it's better because targets are worth more than 2.25x more than a carry in fantasy football, especially PPR formats like DraftKings. So Swift, he's definitely in play. I'd lean to go to Swift over Zeke because of the price savings, but he's not even a yes because of these next 2 players. Now, $6,200 Mark Ingram is arguably the best running back play in the slate if David Montgomery wasn't on the slate. But $6,200 Mark Ingram did not practice. I repeat, he did not practice on Tuesday. He is also dealing with a knee injury. So this can get really wonky. Who do they have after that? They have Tony Jones. They have Dwayne Washington. Those are the remaining guys. They have Ty Montgomery, who was a running back wide receiver who's also hurt. So Wednesday is basically going to tell us what's happening here. We're not expecting Kamara to go. If Wednesday we don't see Mark Ingram practice, well, then it's going to be the Tony Jones show, and Tony Jones quickly becomes then basically the best running back play on the slate at the flat minimum price of $4,000. So just keep that in mind. Tony Jones becomes the best running back play. You play him, you don't even think about it twice as long as he's starting out there. I would expect him to see 12 to 15 carries. I'd expect him to see 3 or 4 receptions. If he is not in, though, Mark Ingram's role has been elite. They are trusting Mark Ingram a lot right now. He has an 87.5 opportunity share, which would rank 2nd in the NFL, only behind Najee Harris if that was to sustain. That is in the 2 weeks without Alvin Kamara so far this year. And now last week, Tony Jones did return, so he actually had a backup opportunity to take some of his touches. It didn't happen. He saw 16 of the 20 carries. That's 80%. He ended up seeing, for back-to-back games, 6 targets. He now has 12 targets in 2 games without Kamara. So These New Orleans Saints running backs look really good. If there is no Ingram and Kamara, Tony Jones, fire him up. He's ready to go. But if Ingram steps on the field, he will be my second favorite running back, like a 1A, 1B with this next player, and that next player's name is going to be David Montgomery. David Montgomery is my highest projected running back right now. David Montgomery is nowhere near the price tag right now as Ezekiel Elliott, right? He is a $2,000 cheaper than Zeke, and he's projecting out for over a point more. Over a point more for me right now. So I love this. I think David Montgomery is in an obvious smash spot. The matchup that he currently has right now against Detroit could not get any better. A positive 45% advantage. Detroit currently allows 1.47, the most on this slate, yards before contact. Their overall grading, if you're talking about their overall run defense, currently ranks 27th in the NFL. But what makes matters even better for David Montgomery is that Detroit ranks dead last in tackling, 32nd, and Montgomery is arguably, he's right up there with Nick Chubb, Derrick Henry, as Josh Jacobs to an extent, the best broken tackle running backs in the NFL right now. So everything is going to be clicking here for Montgomery. He's top 5 in the NFL quietly right now in opportunity share. The matchup is fantastic. He's a 3.5-point favorite with a decent team total. If anything, Andy Dalton instead of Justin Fields is an elevation because I think Dalton can move the ball, especially against Detroit, and Dalton's going to check down more rather than run like Justin Fields would. So David Montgomery, I expect him to pick up some ownership, but not a lot because people will go to Mark Ingram. They definitely will go to Swift. They will go to Zeke. So all these guys are going to have kind of balanced ownership, and Montgomery is standing there, screaming there right now on this first game on the slate, looking like a fantastic option. I go to David Montgomery here, my favorite running back play right now. Before we scroll, we cover these last two guys. Josh Jacobs is not going to pick up that much ownership, maybe 20 or 25%. These Las Vegas guys, they just don't look sexy. They don't look sexy. They all look okay. We'll get to the receivers. They look fine, right? The only guy who's going to look sexy is Darren Waller for obvious reasons. Derek Carr, yeah, he looks fine. But Josh Jacobs, same thing. Yeah, he looks fine. The fact that Josh Jacobs is priced right next to Montgomery and Mark Ingram, nowhere near the amount of ownership he's going to be picking up. Even though over his last 3 games, quietly has 16 targets, right? Quietly 16 targets out of Josh Jacobs, the guy who never was catching passes, got 14 receptions over the last 3 games, right? Seeing about 3 red zone opportunities per game right now. And if you're looking at the last 2 games, he's seeing a 66% opportunity share compared to Kenyon Drake, which is better than you were getting in that first month of the season, when in some games it was a near 50-50 split. So Jacobs is a 7-point underdog, but if he holds up with this pass catching usage, he's definitely going to be in play. Anytime they get to the red zone, they love to run the ball. They don't have that guy who wins in the red zone. It should be Darren Waller, but it's really not. If anything, this year it's been Hunter Renfrow, but they don't have that guy as much as they just like handing the ball off about 3 times per game to Jacobs in the red zone. So Jacobs is in play. He'll be an interesting large field GPP pivot. Like if you're going to be playing the chalky plays, if you're going to be going with the Josh Allen stacks or the Dak stacks, and you're not going to be going, I wouldn't probably stack up Josh Jacobs with Derek Carr. They don't really correlate well together. But if you're going to be going to one of those chalkier stacks, maybe you start to consider Jacobs instead of the higher owned Mark Ingram, Swift, and Montgomery's range. And then after that, like we can scroll here, you get Tony Pollard as an okay option in terms of a backup running back. The problem with Tony Pollard is he's priced up. He's 5,600. You're not getting like, if he was 4,500, 4,600, it's a different story. But Tony Pollard is the clear backup. He's going to get like 10 opportunities in this game. The fact that they're down their top 2 receivers, you might see some more 2 running back sets with some screens. Maybe Pollard sees like 5 or 6 slot snaps, which can lead to an extra target or 2, but he's priced up for it. I have Tony Pollard currently projecting for 9.7 fantasy points. Makes him an okay play, not an elite play though. After that, I don't want these Bills running backs. They're in a 3-headed backfield. They're not in a great matchup against New Orleans. They should, in theory, try and run more against these 2 high safety looks, but I just don't want it. I mean, you're not getting anything great here. Yeah, in week 9, Devin Singletary looked good on 13 touches. He ended up having 7 catches because Zach Moss was hurt and Matt Breida was not activated. In week 10, but Devin Singletary looked good. No, he just scored a touchdown. He only got 8 touches. And then in week 11, you saw a bigger role for Matt Breida, leading to just 6 touches for Devin Singletary. Breida's played 14% and 30% of the snaps the last 2 games. Zach Moss has been slowly withering away. Zach Moss maybe in the red zone, if anything, is where he'll be used, but he only saw 16 snaps in that last game, only 4 opportunities week 11. This is back-to-back weeks of 3 running backs seeing 5 or more touches, and no, don't even try and think that it was Matt Breida in garbage time. He's only had 1 garbage time touch these last 2 games. So all those guys look terrible. The only guy that looks good down here is $4,000 flat Jamal Williams. He projects out for like 7.5 fantasy points, which is better than every other running back priced below $5,000. So if you wanted to punt running back, you don't have to because of how much value there is a wide receiver. That's where I would go, but that's the only option. Obviously, again, if Tony Jones does indeed become an option, you will go there. It's as simple as that. You play Tony Jones. Some people might have questions about Khalil Herbert. I mean, straight backup. It's all David Montgomery at this point. Damian Williams might even return. Some people might be questioning about Kenyon Drake. I want to try and cover every player. Yeah, 9 catches over his last 3 games. He had 6 in week 9, though, so it's a little skewed. 7+ opportunities in 3 straight games. The problem with that is I'll just go right down to Jamal Williams, who I think is going to see more opportunities in a better matchup, and he's $600 less. So either punt to Jamal Williams if Tony Jones doesn't open up. If you want to actually go down here, I personally don't think you have to, or you just stay in this nice range over here of kind of the Swifts, the Ingrams, the Montgomerys, the Jacobs in that nice range.